Hello and welcome to Just One More Watch. It seems like only yesterday that I published a video, 5 reasons why you should buy a microbrand watch and 5 reasons why you shouldn't buy a microbrand watch. Because it was only yesterday. I didn't name any names over the course of that video. I popped up the occasional photo, but I left it to your imagination. I'm sure you're all more than capable of reading between the lines, and indeed you were, judging by some of the comments of your own experiences, both positive and negative, with microbrands. One name that cropped up again and again in the comments section in a positive light is Zelos. I really do enjoy Zelos watches. I've reviewed maybe 8 or 9 of them on the channel to date, and I've included them in various roundups and various recommendation videos, and not just because they send me freebies, which they do. This video is sponsored by Zelos. They sent me this teal dial Swordfish titanium for free. I do not have to send it back. I don't only just say nice things about them though. At least 2 of the cons in yesterday's video were also pointed squarely at Zelos, and I'll talk about that later on. But on balance, I think they do a fantastic job and are now being widely recognised as being one of the best when it comes to microbrands. Good value watches, interesting designs, quality products, and great customer service from a brand owner that is engaged, is accessible, and really genuinely seems to care about his customers. What more could you ask for? Now, this is the 4th iteration of the Swordfish, which is their biggest selling and most popular model. They've gone through a version 1 and version 2 in stainless steel in 42mm. They've also done a 40mm in stainless steel, which sold out entirely in 8 hours. This is the 42mm, but in full titanium, and I suspect it is going to sell out pretty much as quickly as that one when it goes on sale in a few hours time. I'll obviously leave a link in the description of the video to the Zelos website. So is it the best dive watch that money can buy for $400 US? I suspect for many people this will represent the best that's on the market at the moment. There are a few moans, there are a few niggles, but to be honest, there aren't that many. Let's flip the camera and have a look at it. Alright, let's get on with it. I'm sure you're familiar with the Zelos packaging by now from this channel or from others. Indeed, there are a couple of other reviews of this titanium Swordfish around. Dave from Just the Watch and Mark from Average Bros both reviewed it, so as always, make sure you don't just take my word for it, you get a second and even a third opinion. So, watch roll. One thing that mine did not come with that yours will do if you buy one is a Horween leather strap. I just got sent the watch and the warranty card. It normally comes with a Horween, a really nice addition to the package actually. Hang on a second. There we are, I can show you the one that's attached to my Mako 2. Nice high quality bit of deceased horse Horween leather, 1905 USA on the underside of it, and the Zelos logo on this side. I reckon it suits the darker dial colours better than the frost dial or the teal dial that I've got to show you, but a welcome addition to the package regardless. What is never quite as welcome with Zelos is the 1-year warranty. Beautiful warranty card here, but only 1 year. I reckon that's a bit cheap. I call them out every time. I mentioned that in one of my cons in the video that I released yesterday about microbrands. But hey, as long as people still buy these with alarming regularity and frequency, then I can't see that changing anytime soon, but you should be aware of it. But on to the watch, because as much as those bits and pieces are welcome additions, this is really why we're here. Certainly not my first Zelos, not my first Swordfish either, but my first encounter with one of their teal dial variants. This really is the hot model. These sell out quicker than anything, and now I understand why. That blue sunburst really is quite spectacular. I'll throw in some macro shots here. I'll get a bit of outdoor footage as well over the course of the review to try and do that one justice, but very, very attractive. So if you're familiar with the Swordfish, it's the same basic set of dimensions, looks very much like a Seiko Samurai. I referred to this one as a Seiko killer when I first reviewed it, and indeed I bought a Samurai to put it head to head against the venerable Seiko to see just how good it was, and this Swordfish did indeed come out on top of that particular bout of watch boxing. Got a similar kind of angular case, similar overall look and feel to it as well. So 42mm in diameter, bang on 14mm thick, 47.5mm lug tip to lug tip, so nice compact lug to lug for a big watch, 22mm lug width, tapers down to 20, back up to 22 at the clasp, but this one being titanium, really the key dimension here today is the weight. And that weight, as you can see, is 139 grams. When I first got this one in, I sized it up and I popped it on the scales. I was a little bit underwhelmed by that. It didn't feel like a particularly low number for a titanium watch. And this titanium swordfish doesn't really feel like a titanium watch. Doesn't particularly look like one either. I mean, it is a little bit darker than stainless steel, but not super dark. And it doesn't have that kind of jingly, jangly, light flimsiness that you get from some titanium watches. The last Thai watch that I looked at on the channel was the Spinnaker to say titanium, which for $500 didn't really justify its price tag. And indeed, it felt flimsy and rattly, certainly when compared to this swordfish. I reckon probably the most instructive and useful comparisons of this watch's weight come against some of its siblings. This is a 40mm swordfish in stainless steel, sized up for my 7-inch wrist, coming in at 152 grams, so close to 15 grams heavier than the much bigger 42mm diameter titanium watch. The regular stainless steel swordfish in 42mm comes in at 190 grams when sized for me, so it's a big watch that wears like a small watch. Maybe that's where the appeal of this one lies today then. I mean, I guess there is appeal in the material itself. If you don't own a titanium watch, finding one for less than $400 of this quality is a bit of a bargain. But maybe it's for guys who like a big watch but don't like a heavy watch. I tend to go for lighter watches myself. My kind of sweet spot is between 120 and 150. So this allows me, I mean, I'm a big tall guy. I can totally get away with large diameter chunky watches like this, but I don't tend to wear them all that often because of the weight associated with them. So this one kind of ameliorates that problem. And like I said, it's not super dark. You are dealing with something other than stainless steel, you know that, but it's not super dark. Mostly brushed finish. There's a couple of high polish edges on the upper edges of the crown guards and on the inner edges of those lugs. And again, it is mostly angular, very much like the Samurai and like all of the other swordfish. Couple of soft curves just to soften up those lugs as well. I do like the crown, no lume here, but it is also made of titanium and it's decently grippy. So full titanium, grade 2 titanium case, bezel, crown and full titanium bracelet. Pretty much a copy and paste of the stainless steel bracelet on the swordfish. Very similar patterning, very similar short links. Now these links are great. It means you have no problem sizing this one to fit nicely. Chamfered edge there, all brush finish throughout, and they are screw links. Now, if you're picking up one of these, I highly recommend picking up a decent 1mm watchmaker screwdriver at the same time if you don't have one. Otherwise, you may not have the tools to size this one up for yourself if you don't. Clasp, Zelos clasp, again they keep experimenting with a clasp, but I think this is one experiment that they've got right, unlike the slightly too short clasp that featured on the last swordfish. The clasp, interestingly enough, is not made of titanium. Very difficult to get titanium to respond in the same way as stainless steel, so they have just made this one of stainless steel, which is why it's a proper machine clasp. I think that's a good choice actually. Perhaps that's one of the reasons why it isn't 5 or 10 grams lighter. It's tipping in the scales at 140 grams rather than 130 grams, but do bear in mind this will not scuff and scratch as much as the rest of the watch will. So this is the area of the watch that will get most of the scratches, but it is likely to resist most of them. And this has, for the first time on Zelos, a built-in on-the-fly adjustment. Now, I was a little bit dubious of this when it arrived. It's still a little bit stiff. I'm sure that will loosen up with time. It is excellent, especially when in combination with those small links. But let's get back to the lovely teal dial, get some macro going on here as well in a second or two, and let's have a look at the dial, the hands, the indexes and the bezel and so on. All pretty much a carryover from previous model swordfish with a couple of twists. This one is Seiko NH35 powered. I'm sure most of you had taken a wild stab in the dark and guessed that already, given that it's priced at $370 USD. Previous model swordfish with the NH35 didn't have a date complication. You had to opt for the ETA 2892 if you wanted the date down there at 6 o'clock. So if you do want to wear this Thai swordfish as a daily, and I reckon it's a really nice, comfortable, if chunky watch to do so, then a date wheel is a great idea. A date complication always good for a daily driver. I do like the fact that they've put it down there at 6, and I like the fact that they have colour matched the date wheel with a nice kind of mid-blue date wheel, colour matched on all models also. Sandwich dial, as you can see there, recesses for those hour markers. There's a big kind of beaver's teeth hour markers up there at 12, large batons at the 6 and the 9, a truncated large baton to incorporate that date window at 6, and singular batons everywhere else. There is also a quite pronounced minute track around the outer edge. Now the handset's a carryover from previous models as well. kind of modern, blocky, angular, but also slightly cathedral style, and they are faceted and rather prominent, bright yellow second hand with a red tip. Now, the teal dial, bright yellow, ooh, they could have gone for white here or powder blue, I reckon, and it would have looked just as good, if not better. I guess they do match it with that little 300 meters, 1,000 feet script, also in red to match the very tip of the second hand. And there is plenty of lume on this watch. You are not short of lume. If you buy a Zelos, they always go for this bicolour lume, mixture of C3 on the hands and the indexes and the bezel insert. Bezel insert is also made of titanium on this model. It's either titanium or ceramic, depending on which of the colourways you go for. Plus they chuck in a bit of BGW9, which is the blue colour, on that paddle second hand and on the minute track on the outer edges of the dial. It really is a bit of a torch, this one. I've been wearing this watch this week in and out of sunny Sydney and back into my house, and it glows for ages and ages. So if you like your lume, you'll like the Swordfish. So titanium bezel insert as noted, the bezel itself 120 click. Just listen to that thing, unidirectional, rotating, dive time. There is, however, just a little bit of wiggle with this one. Now I'll show you the case back. I didn't have to pop a link as I usually do. I just had to give the two quick release spring bars on one side of the bracelet a squeeze. Great idea these, they're becoming more and more common. It means you genuinely can swap out for the Horween and swap back for this in a tool-free fashion. So you can adjust this bracelet tool-free using the clasp, and you can swap the straps and bracelets over tool-free as well. Fantastic. Screw down 300 meters and there is a nice picture of the Swordfish, and unlike the Mako 3, this is nice and smooth rather than sharp-edged. And there we are, that's an NH35 doing what NH35s do, ticking away reliably and roughly accurately in the back of the watch. This one coming in at plus 10 seconds per day. Most of the NH35s that I've looked at on the channel over the last 3 years generally come in around that plus 10. That just must be the way they leave the factory. Healthy amplitude, minimal beat error, 24 jewel hacking and hand winding auto. You've seen dozens and dozens of these before, I'm sure. They're not particularly spectacular. Interestingly, they haven't offered a Swiss option this time around with the titanium Swordfish. I guess most people would rather have a Seiko in the back and to keep that price under 400, and I quite agree with that. But that's it on wrist, perfect fit because of the internally adjusting clasp here. This is where you feel the titanium, or rather you don't feel the titanium. Short lug to lug of 47 means it sits nicely on my 7-inch wrist, and I reckon that stainless steel clasp comes into its own here, balances the watch out. It doesn't feel bobbly or top heavy as it may do if it had a lighter clasp on it. 140 grams. I've been wearing this one quite a lot this week, and I must say I have been enjoying wearing a slightly bigger, chunkier watch, and yet not noticing that I was wearing a bigger and chunkier watch because of the materials used. That is the overhead shot. Again, no problems with legibility with this one. Because it's a 42, it is a bit larger. You get a larger dial and you get a larger set of hands as well. Outside, the teal takes on a different set of tones and hues. Plenty of anti-reflective coating on that piece of flat sapphire. Kind of looks a little briny towards the edges, but it's still really vibrant. You got a sunburst and a kind of fade fume style. Also, on wrist, this wears so nicely. As I said, super short links and that adjustable clasp means there is no excuse for not getting this one just to your liking. Moans and niggles. I said I had a couple. I don't really have all that many. I talked about the warranty earlier on. 1 year, they're lagging behind the industry. I think it's the only area really where Zelos lag behind rather than lead the microbrand sphere. I'm not quite sure why they have persisted with it, and I would love to see them double it up to 2 years. I think that would be a better reflection of who they are and where they are as a company. Now, titanium. I think it really suits this watch. It takes a big, chunky 190 gram watch and makes it a far more wearable 140 gram watch. That's going to open it up to new markets, to guys like me who don't mind the big diameter but would love something a bit more wearable on their wrist and a little bit lighter. I would love to see other brands like Helm do this as well, guys who make these big 200 gram 42mm or larger dive watches. The use of titanium, if they can keep it economically viable, will, I'm sure, lead to a bucket load of sales. But titanium will scuff and scratch. This watch will not look this good forever. If you're a guy who's particularly hard on your watches, maybe you're better dealing with the extra 50 grams and sticking with the stainless steel. Now, stylistically, you know, this is not going to be everyone's cup of tea, but I guess guys who aren't into this look have already tuned out about 15 minutes or so ago. And I talked about the bezel. Just a little bit of a wobble from this one. I'm not sure whether it's on all of these titanium models or whether it is just on Swordfish Teal Dial 002. That remains to be seen. Now, I've had a couple of pops at Zelos in the past for kind of product testing on the fly. The last clasp that I got on the Swordfish just wasn't good enough. They offered everybody a workaround. They issued out new, larger clasps, but it was a workaround and it shouldn't have gone to market. I think this clasp with the built-in diver's extension slash micro adjustment is a fantastic idea. Combined with the lightweight, this makes it one of the most wearable Zelos that I've encountered, and I think one of the most resolved Zelos all round. So there you have it, Zelos Swordfish Titanium. I think an awful lot to like today for less than 400 USD. Not a lot to dislike, if I'm being honest. It's well made, it's well priced. If you like the looks, not everybody's going to go for the Zelos look. They are kind of 11 out of 10. They're all quite modern and in your face, if you see what I mean. If you don't like it, there are plenty of more reserved watches out there for your cash. Not many of them titanium for less than 400 bucks though. Thank you for watching. I will see you in a future video.